Good morning, Painesville. This is episode 13 of this school year. We're glad you're watching. On Saturday, April 29th, the high school prom held their annual junior and senior prom. Here's a video montage highlighting this year's event.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2017 Painesville High School Junior-Senior Prom. Thank you all for coming, and let's begin the Grand March. Our first couple of the evening, Miss Becca Berlato, escorted by Mr. Colin Freeler. Miss Alexis Schwartz, escorted by Mr. Jacob Bennett. Miss Holly Berscheid, escorted by Mr. Garth Butch. Miss Madison Johnson, escorted by Mr. Nathan Pata. Miss Madison Cash, escorted by Mr. Shay Olmscheid. Taylor Kern, escorted by Mr. Bradley Vanderpool. Brittany Demo, escorted by Mr. Colton Hoberg. Miss Erica Mann, escorted by Mr. Brandon Douglas. Katie Lay, escorted by Mr. Corbin Collison. Miss Haley Hickman, escorted by Mr. Jeremy Stanke. Miss Abby Krause, escorted by Mr. Lex Karsh. Miss Taylor Wessel, escorted by Mr. Austin Imholt. Miss Christy Boach, escorted by Mr. Larry Carlson. Miss Megan Beckius, escorted by Mr. Zach Schrader. Miss Ashley Eisenbraun, escorted by Mr. Matt Hartsfield. Shannon Peltz, escorted by Miss Chantil Hacklander. Miss Evelyn McAdance, escorted by Mr. Isaiah Van Heel. Rachel Wander, escorted by Mr. Isaac Hubat. Zoe Posey, escorted by Mr. Jesse Schaefer. Miss Chantel Van Vliet, escorted by Mr. Jack Pepping. Miss Becca Dahl, escorted by Mr. Nick Storkamp. Miss Carly Leeser, escorted by Mr. Calvin Berg. Sierra Hoekstra, escorted by Mr. Evan Dolly. Miss Molly Stang, escorted by Mr. Carter Carlson. Miss Tegan Schumacher, escorted by Mr. Josh Krantz. Miss Mari Schumacher, escorted by Mr. Eric Johnson. Miss Emily Porter, escorted by Mr. Spencer Imholt. Britta Liedman, escorted by Mr. Zach McAdance. Miss Bailey Whaler, escorted by Mr. Ryan Wisted. Caitlin Dingman, escorted by Mr. Grant Fuchs. Emily Widener, escorted by Mr. Garrett Lusink. Erica Feigum, escorted by Mr. Kirk Ogdahl. Sydney Riley, escorted by Mr. Zach Ossendorf. Caitlin Spanier, escorted by Mr. Tyler Hoekstra. Becca Mogard, escorted by Mr. Kyle Miller. Abby Wirtz, escorted by Mr. Sam Haynes. Miss Taylor Ryder, escorted by Mr. Wade Peterson. Nicole Wander, escorted by Mr. Nick Gabrielson. Olivia Riley, escorted by Mr. Gavin Stanger. Grace Lang, escorted by Mr. Sam Hopfer. Miss Alyssa Johnson, escorted by Mr. Cordell Ludwig. Miss Lexi Myers, escorted by Mr. Lucas Peterson. Sarah Schaefer, escorted by Mr. Jake Arnold. Kylie Everson, escorted by Mr. Alex Magus. Claire Landsteiner, escorted by Mr. Noah Anderson. Allison Gutwald, escorted by Mr. Zach Holzer. Brianne Thielen, escorted by Mr. Tyler Wentland. April Hacker, escorted by Mr. Tyler Neese. Amber Johnson, escorted by Mr. Keegan Binsfield. Miss Brittany Gunther, escorted by Mr. Sam Chumperlin. Alexa Bankston, escorted by Mr. Hunter Schreifels. Alicia Ritter, escorted by Mr. Jacob Kolb. Jacqueline Heft, escorted by Mr. Colin Kern. Tatum Spanier, escorted by Mr. Brody Strand. Allie Hookreed, escorted by Mr. Matthew Leeser. Emily Olson, escorted by Mr. Shane Carlson. Angie Gerke, escorted by Mr. Logan Cash. Miss Brianna Gilmore, escorted by Mr. Tylor Bastian. Sarah Schmidt, escorted by Mr. Josh Soini. Miss Hope Roback, escorted by Mr. Jordan Johnson. Final couple of the evening, Miss Patrice Engelmeyer, escorted by Mr. Eric Hansen.
Mr. Knowlton and the secondary band held their second annual jazz festival on Friday, April 28th.
Top. 1, 2, 3, and...
So as you're working on this, that's how I would encourage you to phrase the eighth note.
We hosted our Painesville Jazz Festival again this year and invited surrounding schools to come join us. It was wonderful. We had Litchfield come out. This was their first time being at the festival, and NLS and also KMS. That was their first time at the festival as well. And we invited Dean Sorensen, who's the jazz studies professor at the University of Minnesota, was actually one of my jazz teachers at the University of Minnesota. He came out and he was our clinician for the day. The main goal of the festival really is to share jazz music and also to hear from different schools. Hear, what peers are sounding like from this school and that school, and kind of just sharing that jazz music with each other.
Secondary German and Spanish language students recently made a trip down to St. Paul for the Festival of Nations.
On May 5th, 47 students from Painesville ended up going to the Festival of Nations down in St. Paul. Festival of Nations is it's a great cultural event where the students get exposed to about 90 different countries in one location and about 40 countries through food. So there's a lot of different things that you can do there. Games, they had demonstrations of different things that they make, and you can also buy some things that are from those countries as well. Going to Festival of Nations since I've started here, so 20 years we've been going, and we go every other year. And we take all the language students that are taking language during the school year or have taken language. Oh, it's a great experience. Next year we'll be going to, we'll have German and Spanish days at the zoo, so we're looking forward to taking students, but those are generally just language specific. So this one includes both languages. Those next year will be individual languages.
The Wilmer area Symphony performed in the high school auditorium on Sunday, April 30th. Our very own Jared Campbell was the guest performer.
Pianist. I've been doing this for about 20 years, and rarely, if ever, has it been as easy to put together as with Jared. He knows the piece so well. He's got a great, intuitive, natural affinity for the music, and he's very calm and very intensely committed to the music. So we're very proud to present to his hometown, Jared Campbell.
The high school FFA held their elementary Egg Day on Wednesday, April 12th.
Hi, this is our Egg Day, and the kids that are in FFA and in Vet Science class put this event together. So we have a couple beef ambassadors here speaking. We do safety equipment, which they group pick skid loaders, and then we have the animals with the petting zoo. It's a fun day.
What's the ultimate goal of today?
Create awareness about animal agriculture, safe handling. You know, sometimes kids are afraid of animals, and so that they're not scary. And then also just like agriculture awareness. Beef. Today we had the beef ambassadors, safety. You know, if any of these kids ever go somewhere where there's a skid loader, just how, or other equipment that we have on different years, just how to be safe around that too.
If it weighs 10,000 pounds, you want to be really careful being around it, because if someone would be operating it and you would be standing, let's say right here, they can't see you because of all this other parts that are back here. So you gotta be careful with it, because it's like when you do your bus safety. You guys all remember that, right? So, because if the bus driver can't see you, or if you can't see the bus driver can't see you. So that's kind of the same with this, because if you can't see them, they're not gonna be able to see you.
Thanks for watching, and remember, if you see any news happening or have a story idea, please email us at bnc-tvnews@gmail.com. See you again next time. Bye-bye. Morning, Painesville. This is Brianna. So do you want me to say my name? Do I need to say my name?
Oh, this is the first bell.
Why do they do this to me?
Alright.